Mike Purdue was under arrest. He was shocked. His jaw dropped. He couldn't believe it. In the other vehicle, Pritchard saw Agent Grafton reach under his seat and pull out a handgun. Pritchard didn't hesitate. He grabbed the .38 from his waistband and pointed it at someone's head. He doesn't recall whose it was. "Don't shoot, federal agent," said Grafton. "What kind of federal agent?" asked Pritchard. "Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco and Firearms." "Oh shit." Pritchard handed his gun to Grafton and was immediately tackled by a team of officers. "I never seen so many guns pointed at me in my life," said the Vietnam vet. "I didn't know they had that many federal agents in Louisiana." A spotlight lit up the two vehicles. "This is the FBI," said the voice coming through a loudspeaker. "Come out of the van, one at a time. No resistance will be tolerated." Wolfgang was locked in the back of the truck. He didn't get too emotional. As far as he was concerned, he didn't break any laws. He didn't do anything illegal. He'll probably have to spend some time in jail, but so what? The sentence likely won't be very long. And hey, it's an opportunity to network with the other Nazis. Operation Red Dog. Chapter 11. The real coup was all the friends we made along the way. The arrest teams brought the men out of the truck one by one. The KKK explosives expert, Danny Joe Hawkins, had been dodging the FBI for almost 2 decades. Federal agents had targeted him again and again, but they had never been able to put him away for good. But now they had him. Mike Purdue's 2 years of fundraising, reconnaissance, recruiting, and arms purchases had come to an inglorious end in a parking lot 2,000 miles away from Dominica. All the meetings, all the traveling, all the planning, it was all for nothing. How could this be happening? Where had he gone wrong? Who had ratted him out? "We were shocked when we were arrested in our own country," said Don Black in a later interview. "In fact, when it happened, we thought that the government had its signals crossed. We thought that somebody else, some local agency, had decided we were violating the law, and they were going to arrest us. We couldn't believe that we were actually going to be in trouble here. It was just a total shock to us." Special Agent Grafton laid the guns on wooden tables in the ATF office, along with the boxes of ammunition, radios, Pritchard's Nazi flag, copies of Soldier of Fortune magazine, Purdue's Dark Shades, and Black Beret. Captain Mike Howell got a letter of thanks from the director of the FBI, William H. Webster. The press had a lot of fun with the story. They called it a comic book invasion, a tragic comedy of errors, a sitcom version of the Dogs of War. The only one who wasn't having fun was Gordon Civil in Toronto, the journalist who infiltrated the Mercs. He lost his scoop. Goodbye, Pulitzer. At the sentencing hearing, Purdue asked the judge to go easy on the others. "I hope that you will use the same compassion in their sentencing as I would on any prisoner I would have taken," he said. Purdue, Draghi, and Waldrop got 3 years. Most Mercs got the same sentence. Bob Pritchard, who wasn't been right since Vietnam, was sent for a psychiatric evaluation. Anderson broke down in court, weeping that his wife had left him and his father had suffered a heart attack. "I've learned one thing," he said. "A mercenary's life isn't for me." Don Black held an hour-long press conference on the eve of the trial. After 6 weeks in custody, he had been released on a $10,000 bond posted by 2 friends in Birmingham. He told reporters the Klan had played no part in the operation, but admitted that he and the others had been on their way to Dominica when they were arrested. "It's always been something I've wanted to do," he said. "We were military advisors, and our purpose was to stabilize and secure the island against communists," he said. "It was not a crime against the American people, and we feel we violated no federal laws." A jury will have the last word on that. Purdue named Charles Yanover and Don Andrews as members of the conspiracy. Purdue spent the entire day walking the jury through the whole story, from the Grenada coup to Toronto, Las Vegas, the recruiting, fundraising, contracts, meeting Patrick John, the Loyalists and the Dreads, and the lies. "Were you, in fact, an ex-Marine?" the lawyer asked. "No, I'm not," said Purdue. "Have you ever been in Vietnam?" No, I haven't. Nor had he ever worked as a mercenary in Nicaragua or Uruguay. He was a fraud, a con man. In reality, Perdue had enlisted in the Marine Corps on April 1st, 1968. 2 weeks later, Private Perdue broke into a house on Old Nickery Lane and got arrested. His service record shows he was discharged on May 21st, 1968. His military career had lasted less than 2 months. Instead of going to basic training, he spent a year in Tennessee State Prison. The Marine mercenary routine was, he admitted, just a fantasy of mine, yes sir, a desire, yes sir. Perdue said he told his recruits the story to give them the impression that I had seen combat before, to give confidence in my leadership ability. And now he was exposed as a fake. But that wasn't his only secret. The investigation determined that Perdue had received at least $75,000 from backers. Most of the money came from the Memphis lawyer J.W. Kirkpatrick. 4 days later, a Crittenden County sheriff found a car parked alongside the Highway 149 near the Tennessee border. In the front seat, there was a body clutching a shotgun. It was Kirkpatrick. The Memphis lawyer had pulled the barrel of the rifle in the mouth and pulled the trigger. I guess the prospects of networking with far-right jailmates didn't appeal to him. After Perdue and Draghi were arrested in New Orleans, Yanover was approached about another job. It was just as insane. The North Koreans wanted to kill the president of South Korea, Chun Doo-hwan. They needed an assassin. Yanover flew to Vienna to tell them he would do it. He also said it's going to be very expensive. At a subsequent meeting in Macau, he collected 2 briefcases stuffed with cash. The time and place for the assassination were already decided. President Chun would be golfing with President Ferdinand Marcos at the Puerto Azul resort in the Philippines between July 6 and 8. A well-aimed gunshot could end his life. But Yanover knew what was going on. The North Koreans could have killed President Chun themselves, but they wanted a scapegoat. When the president's body went limp and the finger-pointing started, Yanover would take the blame. The North Koreans would sit back and deny all involvement, pointing instead to the mob. That's what they were buying with their $1.5 million. But Yanover had a plan. He began secretly tape recording and filming his conversations with the North Korean agents. He approached the Royal Canadian Mounted Police with an offer. In exchange for revealing the assassination plot, he wanted $1.5 million and immunity. And he wanted police to drop all charges against his mob friends, including his boss Paul Volpe. But just before he could make a deal, Yanover was arrested over the Dominica coup. He pleaded guilty. The judge sentenced him to 6 months. That's not too bad. Except on the very next day, he was sentenced to 2 years for his involvement in the Korean assassination plot. Although police never did recover the $600,000 the North Koreans had given him as a down payment. December 19, 1981, Roseau, Dominica. Armed with his service revolver, Major Fred Newton led his men to police headquarters. Bullets were flying everywhere. The long-awaited coup was finally underway. All was going as planned. A few more hours of fighting and it will all be over. Major Newton and the Dominica Defense Force would control the police station, break Patrick John and Captain Reed out of prison, get real guns from the armory, and then the island will be theirs, the center of gravity and all that. The plan was the latest adaptation of Operation Red Dog. The main difference was they were going to have to do this without the American mercenaries and their AR-15s. But there was a slight problem. The revolutionaries managed to reach the armory, but they couldn't break the lock. They couldn't open the goddamn door. That gave the police enough time to organize a counterattack. After getting over the initial surprise, the police began to fight back, and reinforcements were arriving from all over the city. Everyone figured out what was going on. The Dominican Defense Force was mounting its long-anticipated coup to oust Eugenia Charles. By daybreak, the police had the upper hand. Major Newton, the leader of the coup, decided to bail. He stashed his 2 guns under a tree and went home. Perhaps he thought that things would just blow over somehow. Maybe they haven't seen his face. Maybe they didn't know it was him. But they did know. Major Newton was arrested at 9 a.m. He and 6 others were charged with murder. He would be executed by hanging.